Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
We'll see.
Cool. Okay. Our last talk of the day. No pressure, Sean.
I know. It's I either ruin everything or I maintain a steady state.
Do you want to tell everyone what happened yesterday who weren't here for the hackathon?
I put on a great demo, and I felt that Dan went home and judged it. It was kind of like a piercing the corporate veil thing. I don't know what happened, but I lost the hackathon.
Should we tell the truth?
Absolutely not. It doesn't look good for me.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't.
so
it doesn't. Let's move on. So yes, Sean, the creator of Pion, you're going to talk to us about WHEP.
Yeah, I kind of just
stuff.
I started writing it this morning, and it went other places.
This morning?
Yes, this morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. and then, I wanted to write it last night, but then I fell asleep at like 9.
Sounds like something I'd do.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a big fan of Pion. It's kind of changed how a lot of us kind of tackle problems, and that not necessarily. In case you don't know, Pion isn't just WebRTC. Pion is every single part that makes up WebRTC. So a good example is the RTP part. You can go and use the RTP part entirely separately. And so you can say maybe make a SIP phone engine that, uses, Pion doesn't know SIP, but it knows how to handle the RTP. So Pion, everyone talks about Pion being WebRTC, but it's not. It's all of these separate bits that make up the WebRTC ecosystem. So it's fantastic. And
the funny story is I was actually in love with with Turn, and I wanted Turn as an API, but everyone was very bored by that. And like WebRTC was the thing that people actually liked, which surprised me.
And a little self-promotion for me, Turn, so iceperf.com.
Yes, I talk about it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I got a whole slide.
I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'll hand it over to Sean.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So wish, today, future, and opportunity. Okay. So out of all of this, the thing that I would want to impress the most is I still think it's early days for, are the slides? Am I not screen sharing? Oh, there we go. Okay. Still early days for WebRTC. So as we saw today, like people get up and talk about Elixir and other things they're working on. And I think everyone in the room here has a project they're passionate about. But if you're watching this video later and you're thinking like, oh, it's too late to get into WebRTC, there's not other things I can work on. This talk is about there are so many opportunities out there for you and the positive impacts that if you go and build something, what they'll have on your life. You can build a career out of this, and it just brings me so much joy. So that's what I want to talk about. And so to start off with today, like the thing that I care about right now is with WebRTC, a lot of people have been complaining for years and years, like give me a URL. They use RTMP, they use SRT, they use something else, but they really just want to put a URL in their software and they want to show up. And then you start telling them like, well, you have to look at the JSP, and they're like, why do I care about any of this? Like, I just want to do something. And then I talked to a bunch of developers, and they really want to do these interesting things like, they want to pull video out of Google Hangouts, or they want to push something into Discord, or they like these different WebRTC providers. And there is a million abandoned repos on GitHub of like, I reverse this signaling, I reverse that signaling. Then eventually it breaks because the company doesn't consider that people are reverse engineering their signaling. Like I think I've done like 5 of these projects myself. So the first thing I was working on with this was OBS. And so in OBS now, there is a WHEP output, and you can send WebRTC out of OBS into other people. And the thing that I didn't realize, or the reason that this matters so much for users, is the interactions you have when you go from 1 second to 400 milliseconds is dramatically different. When I see someone, they play music, and then the audience immediately responds, and they see their response go on the page, it becomes a conversation, not like you're yelling into the abyss. Like there's something very different about, like right now when you go on YouTube or Twitch and you watch people and they say something and then there's a delay and then they respond. It's a one-way dynamic. So I think that bringing this like sub-second latency, I'm kind of preaching to the choir on this, but that's why I'm passionate about this and like why I keep doing it. And there's this broadcast box to do easy self-hosting. The other thing I wanted to solve out of this is we bring on the WebRTC stuff, but also can we make it easier for people to build things on their own? And the other part of this that is really taking off is with, now that we have this WHEP and this WEP, that people can pull stuff out of their SFUs. So everyone's like, I want to, send everyone up in the room and I want to do the live, like live compositor. So everyone wants something like that, but it's so hard to plug things together. And then here's all the services that have started speaking WHEP and WEP today. So at the point in this story is that for me, like WHEP and WEP was just like, hey, I have video, I want to watch it in sub-second time. Like this was my perception of what WHEP and WEP was and like why it was important. And recently it's turned into a lot more than I realized. With WHEP and WEP, it's letting people connect these disparate video systems. I have all these users coming to me that like third-party apps. Don't worry about, I got slides for all these, so don't worry about digesting them too much. Like this is just a summation, I'll just jump in. Better screen share. So I built this broadcast box thing and I thought, oh, people want like, they want a place they can go and use WebRTC. Like they just want to send WHEP into a WebRTC provider, or they want to send WHEP into, and everyone that comes into me, they say like, I don't like broadcast box. I really just want better screen sharing for, Discord. And their users are continually frustrated by the dynamicism of WebRTC implementations in the browser. They really want to just set like a specific bit rate and a specific H.264 profile. And even though when I say that, everyone, I can see the pain on their face. They're like, aren't you considering congestion control? Aren't you considering that? So, like, users don't care. They just want, they want to control. It's like telling people that are really into cars, like, oh, you just have to drive this and never pop the hood, never look inside. And I get that there's these disparate problems, but this is what users are asking for, and they're very happy now that they have this, they have the ability to do this. So this is something that I care about, or I hope to see more adoption of WHEP and WEP into these other services that haven't considered yet, because this is what the users are asking for. They don't want to use other services. They just want higher quality screen shares. Bridging video systems. So as I was working on giving people WebRTC infrastructure, they would constantly come to me and they would say, I like this feature, but I actually just want to go use N because it's cheaper, or it has this feature. And it frustrated me to see how sticky WebRTC services are now. If you go and set up an SFU, or you go use a WebRTC provider, it becomes very hard to switch between them. And I was really excited about this interoperability. I had people that come to me, and when Cloudflare came out, it was dramatically cheaper than what was there before. And the fact that people, they would ingest on their existing thing, and then they would send it to Cloudflare, and then people would watch it for really, really cheap. That enabled people to do a bunch of things that they couldn't do before. And what I hope this eventually goes to is that open source SFUs can kind of see this interoperability. I have this dream that someday, I can spin up a Janus server and a Media Soup server and maybe a Pine instance, and we can all connect to each other. I'm not sure what value comes out of that, but in the sake of interoperability and freedom, it seems exciting. I don't know. And then this is another one that came up that I didn't think about at first, was simulcast. So a lot of companies are spending so much on transcodes. They'll have people do 4K for RTMP, and then they'll transcode it out. And this is just the ballpark math of someone came to me and they were it was a small streaming site, and they were I got to shut it down. I'm like, well, why? It's 90% of their bill was just spent on transcoding, that actually transporting the bytes and hosting everything was such a problem for them. And if we could do simulcast out of OBS, it would enable so many smaller sites and so many people that just want to self-host to go and do these things. And also I came to realize it's better video quality. As I talk to these different companies, since everyone is so anxious about price, these transcodes are much lower quality than what users actually want. We're always trying to push down price. And if someone could locally decide the quality they want, it's much better than what providers are going to give them. And these are more unexpecteds that WHEP and WEP are going to do. Is someone came to me and they're going to make it so that you can open OBS on one host, and then because WebRTC speaks MDNS, if you open up your browser on another and go to a page, that boom, you can just instantly be pulled into OBS. So imagine if you're sitting with a friend and you can just quickly build a podcast inside inside the same LAN, or if you want to quickly have two machines and like composite them across. The other one I'm excited is like OnVIF is considering putting WHEP into the hardware itself. So you buy a security camera and all you need to know is a URL and the token. Like, just dramatically better for people that are trying to build things. You know, having to do signaling in JavaScript is painful enough. Having to do signaling in C with, you know, old compilers is even the worst. Okay, so Dan's project, IcePerf, was a fantastic improvement. Like, one of the things that always frustrates me is that they'll come to me and they'll say, like, what WebRTC server do you like, or what hosting provider do you like? And people just always recommend on conjecture and subjectivity. And I love that this project is like giving actual numbers so users can make like real decisions about what's better for them. And the next problem is that you can do ICE, like that's all standardized, but WHIP and WEP is going to bring on a standardization to that next level. So if the more people that bring on WHIP and WEP, I can spin up, you know, this could be added to something like IcePerf, and I can point it at all these different providers, and I can say, oh, this is the response for NACs, this is like what codecs are supported and stuff like that. I'm really excited that as we get rid of the complexity to integrate with these, that we can do more things like this. Embedded WebRTC. So right now, you have a couple different options for embedded WebRTC. You have libpeer, libur, like, so you have all these options and all this demand. You know, almost every camera right now that you see is probably using WebRTC. It's either like glued together or it's using KVS. And I'm seeing all this demand now that all these companies are coming on and saying, I really want like an AI assistant. And if we can make something that works really well for them, it would be amazing. It's gonna explode in the what people can do. Here's the other thing that's really exciting is RTP transport, if you've been paying attention, is a new W3C spec that is gonna unpack that kind of black box with WebRTC. So now you'll get in the browser an API where you can do custom packetization, custom forward error correction, custom RTX, you know, all those problems that you've said like, oh, I can't use WebRTC because I want to experiment with forward error correction, or I want to send custom RTCP. I feel like I've done so many consulting gigs where someone's like, I need to put Pine in the middle so I can send this arbitrary thing to the endpoint. I'm very excited that people can just do this directly in JavaScript themselves. So this is the new RTP. I should have put RTP transport on it, but yeah, just Google RTP transport and it'll turn up. And this is like just the start of this. Down in the corner is someone's working on a pure Swift implementation of WebRTC. We have Strom, which is like a really cool implementation of WebRTC and Rust that doesn't do any I/O inside of it. Like, you pass the packets in. I love all the Elixir stuff, and if you were at the hackathon, I was working on doing super low latency, 20 millisecond screen sharing. I just feel so excited that we're in this space where there's some that believe that like WebRTC is like that it's getting boring. You'll see like tweets about like, have the interesting problems gone away? But for me, like it really feels like this is just the start. That, you know, maybe the AI stuff is interesting, maybe, you know, gaming is interesting, but man, it feels like we're at this point where like if you are looking for a space where there's interesting problems to work on, where there's things that you could be rewarded for and you can spend time and people will be excited about the work you do, WebRTC is a great space for it. So that was it. I kind of like stream of consciousness there. I just got excited about this morning. If you have an idea that you want to talk about, or there's things you're building, or there's you have questions about Pion or any of these other projects, like, please, like, these are all the places you can reach me. Send me an email, add me on LinkedIn anytime, and thank you so much.
Are there any questions for Sean? Or statements about Rust?
Yeah, I've come around, and I was working on it last night after I left, and I was able to get a post request to be handled, and I love Rust again. I've decided my love affair with Rust is back.
I love this idea that we could make our SFUs interoperable. There's obviously open source SFUs, then people like us who are building kind of commercial infrastructure. One of the stumbling blocks has always seemed to me that signaling is really tightly coupled to your choices about how to build scalable infrastructure. Do do you have ideas about how we get past that? Like how can we really make not just an individual SFU code base, but like infrastructure interoperable?
I think it'll be a reduced feature set for the interoperability. And I personally would be fine with that you would understand, like, okay, I'm coming in from an external one, and maybe I just do audio and maybe I just do video, but you lose out on, some of the personalization and other things like that. Like, I'm fine. But yeah, I feel like that anxiety has caused us to be in a situation where perfect is the enemy of the good. But yeah, no, I totally, I see that problem. I'm hoping that I can convince projects to do just a little bit of WHEP and WEP and have them start talk to each other. And then also becomes a problem of where's the value in that interoperability. Like, I like it because I am, I live to unlock doors and break locks, but I don't know, we'll see. Non-answer. Cool.
I have one question with two parts. Mm-hmm. As a open source leader of your project, what advice would you have to give to other open source projects about running an open source project that's clearly successful? And then part two would be, as someone who's seen their open source project used by commercial systems, what requests do you feel that commercial companies and people using open source can do to give back to the open source to make sure it can keep going?
One thing that I would encourage people to include as many people as possible, where one of the things I was excited about is I add as many people as I can to the Pion repo, and they bring all of these disparate ideas that sometimes most of the time I don't understand. But as time goes on, I've learned so much. I remember in the early days, someone said, we need to convert all of the Pion APIs to match the Go interfaces. I'm like, why would we cause a whole new major version for this, for something I don't really understand? And then they showed me how it was pluggable to all the other libraries now. So any Go library, you could run SSH over data channels, or you could run blah over data channels. So I think that was a thing that I try really, really hard to do. And as someone involved in other open source projects, it's so frustrating, and it makes me so sad how hard it is to enter into that inner circle. And I don't, in most cases, it doesn't seem like it's on purpose, but I guess it's hard. Humans tend to want to have these closed social groups where it's easier, I guess. I don't know, that would be my number one advice, is include everyone that you can, because development will go faster, you'll learn new things, and I think it's just more joyful. And then as far as companies taking the code and making money, for a point it used to bother me, but then someone said it's not the impact of your work, or it's not how hard you work, but it's the results of the work that tie to how much money you make. It seems unfair in this world that a doctor that saves lives might make less money than someone that catches a football. You would think that existentially that just seems wrong, but I guess the same applies to open source. Just because you're doing something and other people are making money because of it, that's just not how it lines up. I'm at peace with that, and I feel very happy for all the opportunities and everything I get to do because of open source. Just coming to this event and getting to talk to people and hearing all the things that people have built. I think that's the only thing you can really depend on with open source. And if you're positive out of it, it's been great for my career. It's been great for my happiness. It was worth it in every bit. I don't know, you can't expect anything, I don't want to be pessimistic or cynical, but you just can't expect anything to end up upstream. I find, even though these companies will open issues, I very happily will close them and do it well. I'm just trying to be grateful for what I got, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know how to put this into question format, so it's going to comment again.
Yeah.
But you can comment on top of it. And I wanted to get this on the record and the recording and stuff, so that future people also reach out to you, Sean, to Quinn, and I've been talking to both of you, I think, about this SFU interoperability thing. There's nothing, us from preventing some SFUs that are commercially available, I think like Teams and Cisco or whatever, they already interoperate in secret ways in secret hardware devices. And, I think even if all the fancy new features that you're going to get in a conferencing thing, as you said, maybe it's a smaller set, there's huge benefits into, both, not teaching users new UIs and having different cost structures and all these cool things. And now I'm so thankful that we have, Lorenzo started like WHEP kind of conversation. And I'm so thankful that, IETF conversation is going forward in that now maybe the next step is, okay, add more tracks to WHEP and WHEP, right? And that's kind of coming close to SFUs. And if anybody, listening to the recording wants to discuss this, they should reach out to Sean, they should reach out to Quinn, they should reach out to me. I guess my name is Renan, and who's speaking. You should do this. That's it. That's my comments.
I think it's fair, and it's happening already. Because I had someone that said they couldn't afford to do what they were doing today with the software they were using, but then they were able to go to Cloudflare that was like 5-6x cheaper, and all of a sudden they couldn't. That was super exciting to me. That it makes me so sad when I have to get on a call with someone and say, "Oh, sorry, I can't make this work." But the fact that they were able to make it work because of WHEP. They could do WHEP out of their existing thing into Cloudflare, and it was just instantly cheaper and had the same, because they didn't need they didn't need a specific feature, something. We're so close, yeah, just like the multi-track, and maybe it's there.
If you feel passionate about interoperability with WHEP and WHEP between SFUs, Sergio, the co-author, will absolutely kill me for saying this, but there is an open issue on, I think, WHEP, on GitHub, on the IETF GitHub, that the process to be able, the bit of WHEP to be able to do interop between two SFUs is potentially getting removed. So I would encourage you to go and make your voice heard that you don't want it removed. And that's server sent offers. Because, SFUs all do things differently. And so you need to be able to handle things in multiple ways. So I would encourage participation.
So should we just do the GitHub issue, or should we also send them emails, DMs in LinkedIn? Are you saying all forms of contact are on?
I think GitHub is fine.
That's not what I heard, but we'll go with that.
For the record, GitHub is fine. Thank you very much, Sean. Everything you do on the Python project and OBS and everything else, as well as, a life and kids, I don't know how you do it all. So thank you very much for your contribution to open source in general.